Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions regarding this watch. Today, a rarity, both because we scarcely see the model and because this exquisite and expensive brick road bracelet is something we often encounter only on the Omega Tourbillon models. So it is with great pleasure that I present the Omega De Ville GMT, a coaxial chronometer series from the early 2000s. It's nice size in steel, 35 millimeters in diameter, 11.5 millimeters thick, 48.5 if we go from basically one end link to the opposite end link of the bracelet. That's the total distance across the wrist, 48.5. If you were to wear it on a strap without the bracelet, then the lug-to-lug span is 43.8, with a remarkably vintage-inspired 17 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Now, throwing it on the wrist, it's got a lot of presence in spite of not being big. And a lot of that's down to these imposing fluted and stepped lugs and this incredible bracelet, which just has so much charisma and character to it. It's distinctive. It's anything but generic. So if you want a watch from a great brand that's not a Speedmaster and not a Seamaster and gives you complications and grace to boot, this has got it all. I would say that if it were just on a strap, this would fit a wrist as small as 13 centimeters circumference. Yeah, 13. Whereas on the bracelet, which adds a little bit more span across the wrist, it's more like suitable for a 14 centimeter circumference wrist and larger. And again, mine is 16. Here's over the top. Here's your cuff shot for fitting it under a sleeve. And here's your down the barrel where you really can see how narrow the lugs are across my wrist. The bracelet, I often call it the brick road because in the past, almost every time I've seen it, it has been yellow gold. So I called it the yellow brick road, but here it's steel. You can see it has these raised flanks that are polished, and then the satin channel down the center is dropped below the flanking links. It has innumerable tiny articulations, creating the aesthetic of almost a solid block of metal. It's very unusual. You can even see on the bottom, it's been mirror finished, a little bit like a first generation Vacheron overseas bracelet. Oh my gosh, you'll need a block and punch to size this bracelet at home, but how many individual removable links and how small they are, you're guaranteed to get the right fit. We have a sequential closed double folding clasp. You close that side, then you close this side. Twin trigger release so it cannot inadvertently pop open. And although this is a dress style, the watch is surprisingly water resistant. You can see right on the case back, coaxial, escapement, and GMT. Neglected that it's also 100 meters water resistant. Now on the dial side, there's a lot going on. Fluted and stepped lugs giving it a vintage mid-century Omega vibe. We've got a bezel that has a little bit of an outward flare and then a conical profile, and then it concludes with a domed flourish that leads us up to the crystal, which is very slightly domed. The dial is sort of a matte silver opaline. We have polished hands, indices, and Omega logo. They're all steel with rhodium plate for high contrast. If you look at the individual indices, you can see they also have facets on their side, so they're actually quite complex. Taking a quick look at the hands at center, you can see they are loomed, and they're sort of a modified alpha style. We have a 24-hour scale for the second time zone, and then we have the primary dial, and there's a reasonable amount of luminescence on this watch. Despite not being a sports model, you do actually get quite a bit of lume. Now, in terms of functionality, you could see we've got two independent time zones. You can turn your local time zone independently while the watch keeps ticking. You're not affecting the reference time, you're not affecting the minute, but you will be able to drive the date forward and backwards depending on which direction you travel across the international date line. So remember, you have that 24-hour hand and the 12-hour hand. You could set them independently. Pull the crown out all the way. Now you activate hacking seconds, and it's in this mode that you first set the 24-hour hand, and then you go into the other mode and you set your local. You can also see that it is a coaxial chronometer. That's true. This does have the coaxial escapement developed by George Daniels of Britain, and it is a double impulse direct and indirect impulse escapement system. The idea here is to use tangential friction rather than the sliding friction of a Swiss lever. So there's no Swiss lever in here, and doesn't use sliding friction with elements like the run to banking that are incredibly inefficient. So this tangential system is designed to improve power reserve, improve chronometry, and reduce maintenance requirements. Now the movement, we'll turn around and take a look at it because this is one of the rare early generation Omega coaxials that has a display case back. You can see it's the 2628, which was based on the Omega 2500, which was itself based on the 1120, which in turn was based on the ETA 2892A2. Changes here include more power reserve. It's now 48 hours. It's 5 position adjusted, and the movement is a COSC certified Swiss chronometer. It operates on 27 pivot joules. You can see it's free sprung. They've eliminated the Edicron adjustment. This is both more precise when adjusting and more shock tolerant. The 48-hour power reserve is up from the standard 1120's 44 hours, so you get a handy little bump in power reserve. It still looks like the 2892, though some liberties have been taken, and it is an attractive looking movement. You can see that there is a little bit of corrosion on the rhodium on the rotor, so I always want to make sure you guys know exactly what you're getting. There is a little bit of debris there. That can be removed during service or corrected, but I want to make sure that everything is presented as the watch would be delivered. So there is lots to love here. A really cool watch with perhaps one of the greatest bracelet designs of all time, and an aesthetic that has stood the test of time well. Although idiosyncratic, it doesn't date itself. You don't look at this and think, that's got to be early 2000s. It's a little bit of a standout. It's its own world, even within the Omega canon. So reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.